Okay, last one in this series. This is student page B. Looks like this in your packet. Again, no need for students to have a copy of this. It's so much better if they are discussing with you what you're doing up at the board or on the Elmo, on the document camera. You could even give students these fractions on pieces of paper on index cards and let them rearrange them on their desk. If you've got a group who really likes to work with their hands, they could do that. This page, you'll notice in the top half, all they're asking them to do is, again, order the fractions from smallest to largest. And so they've already been doing that. What you want to focus on in this exercise is the why. How this is going to be easy, but why is it easy for them? Hopefully your students are going to grab this 1/14 right away, and they're going to say that's almost nothing, that's almost zero. And they're going to grab this 8/9 right away, and they're going to say that's almost a whole. And then they're going to look at this 9/16 and they're going to say, well, 8/16 is half, so 9/16 is close to half. They'll have the order already done. You can ramp it up a little bit, give them a number line, tell them they have to put those numbers on the number line and mark 1/2, 0, and 1 whole, and require them to be accurate about putting that 9/16 just a little bit bigger than 1/2, or that 1/14 just a little bit bigger than 0. Another example from the same page, they're going to grab this 5/11, they're going to grab this 3/50. Now you might get some conversation if some students pick out 5/11 first because they see that as a small fraction. However, they have to recognize that if you have something cut into 50 pieces and you only have 3 of them, that's going to be a much smaller number. They're going to grab that 13/15. They're going to put it as almost 1 whole. 3/50 is going to stay over here. And then they're going to grab that 5/11. 5.5/11 would be 1/2. So 5/11, very close to half, but just a little bit less. Again, if your students are having trouble making these connections to these numbers, try putting it in terms of money or food maybe. Tell them they have a choice between getting 3/50 of the candy bar, 13/15 of the candy bar, or 5/11 of the candy bar. As soon as you do that, it's going to click in their head to think, ooh, I want almost the whole thing, so I want 13/15. You can do the same thing if you can find a connection to something they don't want to have to do a lot of. How about homework? Which one of these would you want me to tell you was the amount of homework you had to do tonight? Well, 3/50 is going to be your smallest number. You want to then move on to the why, how and why. Why was this easy? How did you put all of these in order? Again, we're not dividing these out. We're not finding their decimal equivalents. We're not changing them to common denominators. That's not what this is about. Find what's close to 0 or 1 whole. You want them talking about that while you're doing it. When they write on this paper, they're asked to describe their strategies. You want them talking about how they found the fractions that were close to 0, close to 1 whole, and close to 1/2. And that's how they made their ordering. The next sheet, I'm going to go ahead and do it, student page C. This is a really neat one. It's focusing in on the pictures down here, and the students sometimes are having to create the picture, sometimes they're having to create the fraction. Well, in this bar, I just picked 2 to demonstrate with. In this bar, they're shown just a little bit more than half on here. Just a little bit more than half. So students really have to wrap their mind around what fraction could this be if the 16 is already filled in. If they just had a blank fraction, they would say it was 1/2 and they'd be done. But giving them the 16 locks them in to saying, okay, what number goes there? Well, if this was exactly 1/2, which might be right there, this would be 16/32. But this fraction shows just a little bit more than 1/2. And we talked about this on the last exercise. If you're changing only your denominator, you have to think about whether you want that denominator to get bigger or get smaller. So if they were to change it, say, to 35, when they think about this, now 16 is not half of 35 and it's less than, which means you're talking about a shading that maybe stopped back here. Soon as students do that, or you walk them through it, they're going to know that instead of changing that 32 to a 35, they probably should have changed it to a 30 or a 31. There are several acceptable answers for this. You just want to try to keep them in the right range. We go down to one that looks like this. This is a small portion filled in of this box. They gave us the 24. We have to use the 24. Okay, you might have students throw out a few numbers that aren't going to work. We can't put 24 out of 24 here. That's one whole. This is just a small piece that's colored in. We can't put 12. 12 out of 24 would be halfway through this box, and we don't have half. So we're going to take out that 12. We've got to keep going lower. Some students are going to say 9, 8, 7. You can decide how low you want to go. You might do 2. You might do 3. Whatever your class decides on is fine, as long as they are far under 12, because that's the halfway mark. Okay? On the other, at the very bottom of the sheet, they have to fill 2 in. So again, they're changing their thinking around. Instead of being given the picture, they're given the fraction. 4/7 is what they have to show. They need to immediately think, what does that look like in terms of 1/2? Well, 3.5 over 7 would have given us half, right? So that means that we need to show just a little bit more than half. So students should be finding their halfway point and going just a little bit beyond that and filling it in.